Good evening. These are the stories topping our agenda tonight.
Teenage girl killed, 2 others missing as raging floods sweep away parts of Maimahio Road.
He was abducted by 2 guys. Told me one was a tall, dark guy. And they took him, wakamungisha kwa gari.
12-year-old boy escapes captivity in suspected human trafficking syndicate.
I went in the room 2, called the name of the patient, John Bogwa Delito, and responded.
KNH medics at pains to explain mistaken brain surgery.
Wende Wetangula na mimi na Mudavadi tukikubaliana tufanye kikao na President Uhuru Kenyatta sisi watatu ili na yeye tusikie upande wake.
MPs debate divisive Uhuru-Raila truce as Kalonzo demands for talks with the president.
NTV Tonight with Smriti Vidyarthi and Mark Masai.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. David Agondor is a sign language interpreter tonight.
To our top story, a young girl died while 2 of her schoolmates are missing after flash floods rocked part of Maimahio last evening.
Meanwhile, reconstruction of the Maimahio-Narok highway is ongoing, and actually the Kenya National Highways Authority has reported that it is over and the road has been restored in terms of being used. And Leila Mohammed was there earlier today and filed this report.
Students gather in small crowds discussing in low tones what happened to one of their own. A young lady who was trying to get home after a long school day did not complete her journey. Her body now lies at the Naivasha Hospital morgue. The school principal had detained them in the school waiting for the rains to subside and the flood waters to seep into the earth before he could let them go. Further down the line, the ground is open. The cracks almost 5 kilometers long and 20 meters deep.
The foundation of that is the earth sort of moved, and that's why there's this fault line. So this is not the normal causes of rain, but it's like there was a shift, and now which caused the road to crack.
6 years ago, this very section of the road was affected.
20 meters. Tukasikia hiyo barabara iko na crack tukivuka, lakini 20 meters baadaye ikakatika. Sasa ndio tukaona kumekuwa na ardhi imekatika na imeenda sasa upande ya deep. Sasa ikakuwa mbele sisi hatuwezi endelea. Sasa tukagojea wenzetu tuwaambie pande ile wasijaribu kuvuka sababu maji ilikuwa inafurahia kwa barabara juu.
As Mother Nature continues to impose her wrath upon the earth, experts now say there needs to be more expert engagement to ensure that such circumstances do not reoccur in the future.
I cannot guarantee permanent because you can see there is inherent weakness of the earth here. So even if we do a long term, you don't know whether this weakness can shift to another place. So we could have put an overpass, then suddenly maybe the thing shifts again. If you can see, it was like 15 meters from here. Now it has shifted a little bit to the west. The other time it was on the eastern side. So again, those are things I cannot really guarantee.
Tukaisimama hadi saa 10 ya usiku. Tukasifungua ng'ombe tukitaka kusifukisha hapa hivi sikienda kwenye soko. Sasa ng'ombe mbili zikawa korofi kaingia hapo. Tukapoteza ng'ombe mbili.
Biashara walikuwa wako na hasara kubwa kwa sababu unaona wamepoteza 1160 kwa hiyo ng'ombe mbili.
Before the 48 hours are up, motorists will have to use alternative means to get across. But for most part of the day, many were stuck in traffic, hoping for a miracle or at least the construction work to close off the area that was cut off. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
And just to clarify there, the Kenya National Highways Authority did report in the last couple of hours that it had restored the use of that road, Maimahio Suswa, and all the way to Narok. And of course, as mentioned earlier in that package, that this is temporary, so something that is more permanent should be looked into. Right. But as is reported, it can be used now.
So of course, still be very, very careful on the roads.
That's right. The family of 12-year-old Ryan Waweru, who went missing for 10 days, can heave a sigh of relief after their son escaped from his captors and returned home on Tuesday.
Now, Ryan says he was abducted by two men who proceeded to lock him up in an unused warehouse in Nairobi's Pipeline area for 10 days before he gained his freedom.
NTV's Brenda Wanga reports that Ryan's strange abduction did not come with ransom demands and isn't the only one of its kind in the area.
Songs of joyous celebrations reverberate through the Waweru household. They replaced the sorrow and anxiety that was resident here for the last 10 days when their last-born son disappeared from this home. Ryan Waweru is still reeling from that experience that has left him too traumatized to talk on camera. His sister, however, tells us that Ryan's deal started moments after he left his house for tuition on the 3rd of March.
He was abducted by two guys. I don't remember the type of a car. I don't remember the name because he's a very sharp boy. He can tell the type of a car it was. I don't remember, but he told me. He told me one was a tall, dark guy. And they took him, wakamungisha kwa gari. Then all he can remember, he was the entire time he was somewhere in where he could see Taj Mahal.
That car ride would end up in what the family now suspects was a pipeline area of Embakasi, Nairobi.
He has been there. There were two guys and he was sleeping on the floor. They were not even feeding him. The only day he was fed was on Tuesday. It was very rainy. They only gave him bread and tea. Yeah.
While the young boy, who is also a Standard 8 candidate, was living through what is arguably the roughest time of his young life, his parents were also living through their personal hell. Each day was spent looking for any possible leads.
Kwenda kuweka posters, tumeweka kila mahali. Huku kwetu hakuna mahali hatujaweka posters. Na tulikuwa tunamtafuta mpaka kwa homes. Kama kunaweza kuwa kuna mtoto amepotea na labda ameogopa haongei. Lakini hiyo yote hakuna mahali tulienda tukampata.
Initially, they had held on to hope, but with the days slipping by, so did that hope dwindle. They were on the verge of expanding that search to one area they dreaded.
Sasa mambo ikiwa ni mbaya ni mbaya. Lazima sasa tukabiliane nayo vile yamo. Nikaamua niende hospitali. Nikaanzia Kayore, Mama Rusi, Kenyatta. Mwishowe nikaona sitapita mochari. Manake sasa siku 7 nafikiri hata kwa mtu wa kawaida mambo yakienda mrama sana. Siku 7 huwaga ziko enough.
Luckily, just before they made that move, the abductors holding their son made one critical mistake that made it possible for the young man to gain his freedom.
The one guy came back, he was drunk. So when he came back, he came and slept on the floor. He was too drunk. That is when he was able to escape. And he told me when he escaped, he saw there was a poster written somewhere, Tasia, Embakasi. There was someone who was lying there. And Tasia is somewhere here in Pipeline. And he told me he was able to walk from there. Because he told me he really got tired. He was very hungry.
Alikuwa amelia, macho yake imefura, hata sasa anatumia dawa.
While Ryan's family continues to celebrate his safe return home, there is another family from this same area that still doesn't know the fate of their daughter who disappeared just 2 days after Ryan's abduction, and there are growing fears from this area that these two cases might not be isolated.
Indeed, the family of Maria Majala is still desperately searching for her since she left her aunt's home in Utawala for school. Just like in Ryan's case, there have been no demands for ransom, which is puzzling and worrying for both sets of parents and relatives.
Kwa huo muda wote alikuwa amepotea, tulipigiwa simu 3 ama 4. Tumepigiwa mpaka na wanabii, wale wanajiita wanabii wa Mungu. Wengine wametukimbiza Kiambu, wengine wametukimbiza njia hii, wengine anatuambia twende kwa mlima, mambo mingi. Na wale nao watapeli, kuna mmoja alituambia kuna mtoto wako Tinganga.
Now, Ryan's family is enjoying holding their son close and protecting him, but they're also afraid that the dangers lurking in the streets of this village may not be over just yet. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Oh, what an ordeal, but thankfully Ryan is back home safe and sound, and now the hunt, of course, is on for Mariam Majala, a 15-year-old girl who is still missing. In other news, a nurse may have been responsible for placing a tag that wrongly identified Samuel Wachira as John Nderitu, which led to brain surgery, wrongly conducted on Nderitu at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
The revelation came during a Parliamentary Health Committee sitting where health officials who took part in the surgery were questioned.
Well, the two patients at the heart of the incident also appeared before the committee. NTV's Eunice Omolo has more.
Welcome.
Most of the medical team that took part in the KNH brain surgery mishap came equipped with written statements. Ward nurse Mary Wahome's name mentioned by several people at the Parliamentary Health Committee sitting after her confession.
I went in the room 2, called the name of the patient, John Delito, and responded. I did not receive the patient with the label. I'm the one who wrote it on a strapping.
Mary said she was one of the 3 nurses who were handling 61 patients that day. In the midst of attending to other nursing duties at the hospital, she had to ensure that the correct patients were taken to theatre. She said she made the decision to place the tag John Nderitu on the patient that had the file under the same name by their side. Responding to questions from the health committee members, Dr. Hudson Nganga, the junior neurosurgery registrar who performed the surgery, did so after counter-checking the patient's documents against the tag he had.
But the fact that he required blood was based on the patient, the surgery that we're going to do.
Accounts by nurses, the anesthetist and the neurosurgeons illustrated that the largest referral hospital lacked a foolproof system for identifying and labeling patients. It also emerged that only patients at the private wing of the hospitals have wristbands for identification.
Going forward, I will recommend a few changes to avoid recurrences. So first, the labeling of patients with an armband upon admission. I believe that could actually help, and a photograph of the patient upon admission to be filed together with the patient's records if it's feasible.
The patients and their loved ones gave accounts of what took place. 37-year-old Samuel Wachira underwent the procedure that was not meant for him. He's still recovering and has lost part of his memory. He was represented by the family lawyer and the elder brother.
So, actually, the stretcher, they don't look for a stretcher for you. You go and look for it.
I found my brother, he could not have constructive discussion. And I went to the sisters there, or nurses, and I tried to inquire. That far, they could not give me information.
Wachira's family will be submitting their complaint before the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board on Thursday. The Kenyatta National Hospital's Board of Management was sent away for lacking full representation and will appear before the committee tomorrow after the former CEO, Dr. Lily Koros, and the Director of Clinical Services, Dr. Bernard Githai. The Parliamentary Health Committee will continue with its sitting tomorrow as it is expected to complete its inquiry on Monday 19th and submit a report on the same on the 20th of March this month. Eunice Omolo, NTV, Nairobi.
The Marsabit County government is appealing to the national government and international agencies to help in providing sustenance for over 8,200 Ethiopian refugees who have sought asylum in different camps within the county.
Well, refugees started entering the country on the 10th of March after a military assault on civilians in Ethiopia, which left 14 people dead and several injured.
The refugees, most of whom are women and children, are under the care of the Kenya Red Cross and the county government, but resources seem to be running low, with conditions in the camps worsening.
NTV's Melita Oletenges visited Sesi camp in the Moyale border town and brings us this report.
On Saturday the 10th of March, Ethiopian security forces are said to have opened fire in Moyale town in Ethiopia, killing 10 civilians in the border town and injuring several others. What followed was mass migration from the country, with over 8,200 Ethiopian citizens seeking refuge in Kenya's Moyale border town and other unofficial camps.
We have been targeted, particularly the Oromo community had been targeted, especially around Ethiopia-Kenya border. We don't know what's wrong, and the government say on his media it was by mistake. How the government can kill by mistake 10 people?
Thousands of refugees have camped here at Sesi. There is literally no roof over their heads. The little ones, unaware of what is going on around them, take a nap. The adults ponder what has befallen them, while others protest outside the camp. Marsabit County officials say the influx is taking a toll on basic necessities such as food, water and clothing, and that the pressure may increase as the refugees brought their livestock.
What we have is not enough to take care of them. They need shelter, they need clothing, they need food, they need medical support. We don't have all these things. We are appealing to international agencies. We are appealing to the national government. Kindly come for our rescue.
More refugees continue to make their way to the camps, the latest being this group of high school students who fled their country, staging demonstrations on arrival.
Stop killing
They say learning has been disrupted due to insecurity.
Right now, there are a lot of students who are here. They are competing with others. Right now, we are in 7 months. Our national exam will be 9 months. 2 months are remaining, and they are killing our people.
Women and children are the majority in this camp. Halima Kosi fled here with her 4 children, who now spend their days here uncertain of their next meal. She says her life has suddenly become a gamble. Ethiopia is currently under a state of emergency imposed to quell insecurity following the resignation of Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn. Over 8,200 Ethiopian citizens have fled their country, which is approximately 200 meters behind me, to seek asylum here in Kenya. And even as more refugees continue making their way here into the border town of Moyale and other unofficial camps, the Marsabit County government and the Kenya Red Cross has raised alarm over the high influx that poses a threat to the available resources. The refugees are now at the mercy of the scorching sun in the day and the freezing cold at night. Melita Oletenges, NTV, in Moyale, Marsabit County.
And we're receiving news that a 7-year-old boy was shot dead this evening at the Ethiopia-Kenya border under unclear circumstances.
The boy was allegedly killed by Ethiopian security forces.
All right, more on that as and when we get the details. Elsewhere, an audit into the systems and securities in the Ministry of Lands has revealed numerous irregularities in the conduct of staff and management of land records and putting at risk documents stored in land registries.
The audit, which was started by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in August 2016, reveals that interns, casual workers and volunteers have had access to land records, and there are hundreds of thousands of duplicated documents in the digital registries spread across the country.
Andrew Ochieng has more details.
Dennis.
Yes.
From poor financial management at the ministry to ministry vehicles that have been grounded for years and even obsolete laws that need to be replaced, the audit by the EACC into the affairs of the Ministry of Lands is as wide as it is in-depth. Most worrying, however, is the status of land records in the various registries across the country. EACC says the Ministry of Lands need to improve on its record-keeping systems because when the audit was being conducted, files were being kept haphazardly on the floors, beneath leaking roofs and even in ceilings.
That is no way to keep records. Because if I went in there and stole all those files, what will happen to the owners of those parcels of land? So even as we plan to digitize, we must secure the physical records that we have in a better way.
Worse still, the records could be accessed by anyone in the registries, including unauthorized staff, especially interns, casual workers and volunteers, and therefore making it easier for them to be manipulated and genuine landowners possibly losing their property.
There's so much paperwork. To just produce one title, you have a heap of papers. Why? We're in the 21st century, we don't need to do it. So we need to look for opportunities to not just make business easier to do, but to conserve our environment.
The hiring of casual workers has also been irregular, as EACC reported that in Naivasha, for instance, registry staff contributed their own personal money towards the wages of the casuals. However, even as the ministry is trying to get rid of the archaic files by digitizing its records, it turns out that has not gone down quite well. In numerous registries, there are thousands of duplicate files. Meru leads with more than 150 in its digital archives. Thika has 31,837, while Kajiado has 24,375. EACC says this can open an avenue to manipulation of the records. The ministry says it will work on improving the security of land records so that they cannot be accessed by unauthorized persons, but it will also need to improve its financial management systems. EACC has recorded various loopholes that could be losing the taxpayer money. In Narok, for instance, in October 2016, more than 1.4 million shillings was collected as revenue, but only 1.2 million shillings was banked, with 200,000 shillings unaccounted for. In Kiambu, between January and April 2016, 6.6 million shillings was collected and banked, but had not been remitted to the revenue collection account maintained at the Central Bank of Kenya by January 2017.
It is not an investigation to identify faults with a view to portray an institution in any negative way. It's for us a very positive, in-depth process of analyzing what is there with you and how you can make use of what you already have, but make it better for us all to benefit as the people of Kenya.
EACC also wants the ministry to change the numerous obsolete laws but still govern some of the ministry's activities, and liaise with county governments to change their urban development plans, some like Nakuru, which were prepared in 1945.
We need to plan our counties better. We shouldn't have towns and cities that don't consider the users of the people living in those cities. We can't build all over the place until you have no walkways for people. We have no routes for bicycles. You need to take care of the needs of everybody that lives in that locale or in that locality.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says it is looking at preventive measures going forward to fight corruption and building integrity in service delivery in public institutions. Andrew Ochieng, NTV.
Now, some of the latest developments in politics, and the Orange Democratic Movement now says it will support Jubilee's development agenda as long as the ruling party in return supports calls for reforms.
Well, this emerged even as Parliament debated a motion seeking a bipartisan support for the initiative to build bridges that was kick-started by Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Enoch Sikolia reports.
The newly struck pact between President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Premier Raila Odinga provided the platform for the rare show of unity.
Not on the basis of our ethnicity.
A house that was once divided was speaking in one voice.
Let us not play politics.
MPs from across the political divide displayed rare support for each other, clearly cemented by the common agenda set by their bosses.
Kenyans are used to where when two political groupings come together, that we only come together to share positions. Correct. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very clear that this meeting of minds is to talk about the reforms that we have been working all along, and total democracy and the development of this country. This deal does not and will not be equated to a coalition government. And at the moment, the deal is still very young. It's just one page, so we are yet to see more.
The Harambee House Pact was causing jitters among other affiliate parties in the NASA coalition. Principals Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula and Kalonzo Musyoka seemingly questioned the rationale behind Odinga's agreement with Kenyatta without their prior knowledge.
I thought on Friday when Uhuru spoke and Raila Odinga, the Right Honorable, spoke, the whole of Kenya spoke. Yes. Speaker, all of Kenya spoke. Speaker, I don't know what the problem is. As chairman of ODM, that ODM has decided not to take any blackmail again going forward. And beginning now, we are not going to accept to take unnecessary blackmail that we can't understand.
When the general says you retreat, Mr. Speaker, you retreat. And when the general says, Mr. Speaker, you resist, you resist. When the general says, Mr. Speaker, you hibernate, Mr. Speaker. And when he says dialogue, you dialogue, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the last time I checked in our books and records, the Major General that we had in NASA was one Raila Amolo Odinga. And these others were lieutenant generals, you know, other low cadre there.
In the Senate, NASA Principal Moses Wetangula, for the first time, publicly declared his commitment to the pact.
We will work together and we will make sure that this process is neither frustrated nor derailed nor in any way made not to work.
Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is looking at his legacy, he's looking at history, he's looking at the impact that he's going to cause in this country. He wants an environment that, even though President Uhuru Kenyatta is now running the country, he wants an environment that creation of jobs is possible, development is possible.
The pact has left those in the 2022 Kenyatta succession contest with a lot to ponder. The initial stages of the pact leaving many questions than answers, and whether the country should have a relook at its governance structure and move back to the parliamentary system together with the reintroduction of the Prime Minister's position.
I wish to express my commitment to support the government's agenda that will help our economy grow, provide job opportunities for the citizens, and enhance the general welfare of our people. Equally, as a minority party, we shall request the majority party, Mr. Speaker, to support our agenda as we strive to propose and sponsor progressive bills that are going to foster development.
Enoxikole, NTV, Nairobi.
And still in politics, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi of the Amani National Congress and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula now want a meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta barely a week after Raila Odinga entered a unity pact with the head of state.
The Wiper leader said their attempts to meet the head of state this week were futile since he had traveled to Cuba on official mission. Kalonzo was speaking after meeting the Ukambani clergy in Machakos.
Wenda sisi wenyewe, because we believe in constructive dialogue, kutokana na yale Raila alituelezea, wenda Wetangula na mimi na Mudavadi, tukikubaliana, tufanye kikao na President Uhuru Kenyatta, sisi watatu, ili na yeye tusikie upande wake. Atakubali constructive dialogue, ama itakuwa tu ni kukimbia kwa mambo haya. Lakini hatuja pata, tumefahamishwa amesafiri kwenda kuelekea nchi ya Cuba. Akirudi pengine akikubali tutamuona, asipokubali hatuwezi kumlazimisha. Yeah.
24 minutes past the hour, we take our first break here on NTV Tonight, but coming up,
police foil planned terror attack on government buildings in Nairobi. Thanks for staying with us. Police say they foiled a major terror plot when they arrested 4 people and recovered a vehicle that was carrying weapons, including explosives, in Smriti in Isiolo County. Police Inspector General Joseph Boynet says the terrorists had targeted a government building in the capital in order to free a terror suspect currently facing various charges.
On the 15th of February, police had a grim discovery on their hands.
It was an explosion through the grenades.
Police Inspector General Joseph Boynet carries aloft a part of the deathly finding when this vehicle was intercepted in Smriti, Isiolo.
When they approached it, an individual came out of that vehicle, fired at them, but he was liquidated.
Inside the SUV were some 1,199 bullets, 36 unprimed hand grenades, 18 improvised explosive devices, 5 AK-47 rifles, 3 military knives and 85 kilos of TNT. Police also recovered several SIM cards and mobile phones, a black flag, and other paraphernalia associated with the Al-Shabaab. 4 people were arrested and are facing terror-related charges.
Some of the explosives that we found there were 2 high explosives on the front door, on the front left door, 2 others on the rear door, 1 on the front door, 2 under the wipers, hidden under the wipers, and 1 pipe bomb hidden in the dashboard.
The terrorists are said to have bought the Mitsubishi SUV from a yard in Nairobi and drove it to Somalia, where it was fitted with explosives ready for detonation.
We have also identified other cells in Isiolo that are linked to lots of cases of radicalization and facilitation of recruits to Somalia to join terror networks.
This hair-raising finding, police say, would have caused maximum damage within a 250-meter radius. Police say they had planned to attack a government building and a judicial institution to stage a rescue of a terror suspect facing various charges. The high-value suspect they planned to free is Muslim cleric Sheikh Guyo Gorsa, who is currently in custody over various terror-related charges. Earlier, police had raided Delta Hotel along University Way and opposite Central Police Station, where the suspects had booked and spent almost a week planning the attack. While the country hasn't yet found her silver bullet in the war on terror, police say they can chalk this one up as a partial victory, and they have now ramped up security around the country. Sheila Sendeo, NTV.
The University Dawn strike continues. That's according to officials from the University Academic Staff Union who presented their petition to Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed. The lecturers who protested today say the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement was meant to have been concluded in July last year, but the government has continuously failed them. Sharon Baranga reports.
Lecturers from public universities began to stream in at the University of Nairobi's Graduation Square as early as 9 a.m. They mounted barriers on the road next to the grounds to prevent those who are not on their side from driving out. The lecturers who have been on strike for a fortnight say they are not amused by the loud silence from the Education Cabinet Secretary.
Concentrate on our subject. As we are not going to allow higher education to collapse.
The Dons then headed to Parliament buildings, making several stops on the way. They then proceeded to Jogoo House, the Ministry of Education offices. They camped here for 3 hours, threatening not to move until they were addressed by the Education Cabinet Secretary. Officials from the University Academic Staff Union had a brief meeting with the CS, who in turn addressed the lecturers.
We are not going to look for a quick fix. We are going to look for a long-term solution. We are going to look for a permanent solution.
The lecturers didn't seem to agree with the CS, and so they vowed to continue with the industrial action. Earlier, Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani said he is hopeful a solution will be reached by the end of this week that will bring the current stalemate to an end.
And we are hopeful that a decision will be made on Friday, whether to either declare the strike illegal or to force the parties back to the negotiation table.
2 weeks ago, lecturers from public universities called for a strike
over the government's failure to negotiate the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement. According to them, the CBA should have been concluded in July last year, and so the strike is still on until when their grievances are heard. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
The government has dismissed a move by education stakeholders in Wajir to shut down learning institutions in the county due to a lack of teachers. Well, this follows the exodus of non-local teachers over security concerns as parents obtained a public demonstrations notice on Thursday.
Education stakeholders in Wajir had planned demonstrations on Wednesday. They were, however, told that the permit they had allowed demonstrations Thursday morning. They are protesting the redeployment of non-local teachers from Wajir and the lack of government action to address the deficit. Wajir County Commissioner Loifat Kipora told stakeholders that shutting down public schools in Wajir will not help resolve the current educational crisis in the county.
Demos in our constitutions are allowed so long as they are peaceful and they are notified. My suggestion is as they share out their frustrations, let them join us on Monday.
It's not us who close the schools. It is TSC who have closed the schools. Because a school without a teacher is not a school. They have moved away the teachers. Out of the 42 secondary schools, more than 25 of them, we have only the principal who's there. There's no way a principal can manage 700 students in a school.
The county commissioner expressed regret at what he termed as teachers taking advantage of Al-Shabaab attack on Qarsa Primary School to leave the county and mass paralyzing learning in the county.
Terrorism is an international problem, and all of us knows that. So in my view, although we sympathize with what happened, it's like now they want to take that opportunity and move to other areas and leave the county without teachers.
He said the government has beefed up security along the porous border with additional deployment of the National Police Reservists to supplement the work of border patrol units, administration police and the military. Nurjin Almoge, NTV, Wajir County.
All right, from the focus on education, we shift focus to the business news in just a moment. Dan Wangi is up next on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Dan Mwangi. Now, if the Competition Authority of Kenya does not clear Tuskys to take over Nakumatt, then the retail of the elephant brand may just be sunk. The administrator, Peter Kahi, says that this is the only way to go, as no bank is willing to even listen to them due to the billions of shillings Nakumatt owes them. However, the journey to saving Nakumatt is getting more tedious as the creditors prematurely ended a meeting with the retailer's administrator where they were to make some steps in resolving the crisis. Restocked shelves continue to thin out the echoes that played characteristic of Nakumatt supermarkets. These serve as solid evidence of the efforts to revive the retailer. These have been partly made possible by the arrangement with Tusker mattresses. However, regulatory approvals are slowing the process.
Currently, we have been working with them, but they have not been moving up to speed so much because they are awaiting that approval of CAK.
The elephant's revival is heavily pegged on Tuskys' helping hand.
In my view, Tusk is the key to reviving this business. As I explained in the meeting, no bank wants to talk to me. You saw the debt levels with these guys or the bank, 7-8 billion. Nobody would want to put good money after bad.
The unsecured loans that Nakumatt took and defaulted on are even higher, according to Kahi.
There was 18 billion for suppliers, and the commercial paper is another 4, so 22 billion is the unsecured debt.
According to a 2017 report by the State Department of Trade, Nakumatt declared that it had debt worth 30 billion shillings. However, the administrator says he knows it to be 35.8 billion shillings. Those who claim that the firm owes them have been called to record their cases with the administrator. However, the earlier stated figures have yet to be achieved.
Around 26 billion as at yesterday midnight.
With all these growing figures of people and farms owed, with the arrears having stood for months on end, the suppliers have grown into a bitter lot that would just hope that their monies would be paid up. Wednesday morning, the administrator was holding a meeting with the creditors where they were to adopt some proposals such as turning debt into part ownership of the farm. However, the group was bitter, in disagreement with some of the proposals, and ultimately venting their way into a premature end of the meeting.
I understand their bitterness. Since it was the first meeting, they had to vent some anger somewhere. I expected such anger. Somebody has lost his money, and you can see the guys who have taken his money are just walking scot-free. And I think that was the anger in their mind.
With their agenda not having been achieved, Kahi says that the creditors have been classified into various categories which will separately collect feedback on the proposals. Then the response is to be presented to the judge in 2 weeks.
They bring me all the views, we see what we can do, then that day we vote, accept or modify further or reject the proposal. If rejected, it's the judge to make a further calling.
The fate of the retailer lies in many hands, which could either deliver it into a new lease of life or crush it alongside the dreams, hopes and aspirations of the owners, employees and the public at large. But given that part of the administrator's mandate is to reach an agreement with the creditors, their hostility may just mean that Nakumatt's fate will be decided in the courts. Kenya's request for a 6-month extension on a 150 billion shilling standby credit facility has been approved by the International Monetary Fund, IMF. This extension is a result of a deal that Kenya struck with the IMF to review the law capping interest rates in exchange for the extension. In a statement dated 12th of March, Kenya said the extension allows it to complete outstanding reviews and also grant access to funds available under the precautionary standby arrangement. The credit facility was originally intended to expire yesterday, and Kenya's promise to repeal the interest capping law means that Kenyans could soon be facing higher costs of loans. Today is 14th of March, and it is that time of the month again when the government reviews the cost of fuel, and this month the relief is for Commission, ERC. Both diesel and kerosene increased by 90 cents and 70 cents a litre respectively. In the capital, Nairobi, motorists will pay 107 shillings and 46 cents for a litre of petrol. Diesel set to cost 97 shillings and 86 cents, while kerosene will retail at 77 shillings and 45 cents. The hike in prices of diesel and kerosene is due to an increase in the average landed cost of the imported fuels. Senior citizens will soon be able to access cash from the government's social protection program from the comfort of their living rooms through their mobile phones. Over 500,000 people who have attained the age of 70 who were registered last year will receive payments for January and February at the end of this month under the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program. Alex Mwangi reports.
The Older Persons Cash Transfer Program has to date benefited an estimated 310,000 individuals since 2013. The Labour and Social Protection Ministry is gearing up to make the first payments to senior citizens this year.
We're going to commence towards the end of the month to early April, and we are targeting 530,000 beneficiaries.
Actually, beginning with these new citizens that we have registered, the 530, all of them will have the option of accessing their money through their mobile phones. So we have now been able to reach that milestone.
The government has increased the number of banks that will participate in the Social Protection Initiative, with Cooperative Bank and Post Bank joining Equity Bank and KCB.
Social protection is a nascent concept in Kenya's economy. As more and more Kenyans become senior citizens, the budgetary allocation towards social protection will need to be increased. Currently, however, the percentage contribution of Kenya's GDP to social protection is relatively low compared to that of other economies.
Kenya today, even being one of the best performing countries in the region on social protection, allocates just about 0.3% of the GDP to social protection. Now, in very developed economies, very mature economies, and where social protection is quite dynamic and quite matured, you talk about an average of about 14%.
In light of the higher number of beneficiaries, the annual budgetary allocation for the Social Protection Program is expected to go up from the current 22 billion shillings to about 30 billion shillings in the next financial year.
The payout period is usually a period of about 3 weeks, but the challenge we have had with beneficiaries that they all flock for payment in the first 2-3 days, and there are such long queues. And so ours is just to encourage them that their money is in the bank, it will not go anywhere, and to try and stagger their movements to the bank. So within the 3-week period, just to avoid getting the congestion.
The 4 banks will use national identity cards and biometric data as the authentication parameters for the new beneficiaries of the program. A social protection conference is set to take place from the 20th to the 23rd of this month in Nairobi at the Kenya School of Monetary Studies. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Kenyan coffee has shared 13% in value at this week's auction to post 25,755 shillings for every 50-kilogram bag sold. Last week, the same bag was sold for 28,684 shillings. This is the first time that coffee prices have dropped by double digits, hitting the lowest price of the season. The Nairobi Coffee Exchange says that these low prices are attributable to the low quality of beans that have been presented for sale, which is part of the main crop that is hitting the market from central Kenya. The county of Nyandarua will host Kenya's first potato processing plant following a partnership with the Irish government that seeks to build the capacity of farmers through knowledge and technology exchange. Potatoes are Kenya's second biggest source of starch after maize.
The 2 billion shilling investment is set to be a turnaround for potato farmers who have for a long time remained on the supply end of the value chain.
We have a capacity for producing 40 tons, but we want to move gradually and make sure that our farmers are trained, that they know how to manage the entire value chain up to the end. We're also looking very closely at value addition.
Through a partnership with the Irish government, the farmers will get to learn on the best potato farming practices as well as the technological advancements to prevent wastage from the farm to the plate.
They also have plans for storage that will complement the actual technology capacity building, the improved access to markets.
The national and county governments pledging to deal with the middlemen who have for a long time prevented the farmers from maximizing on their investment.
Every Kenyan household enjoys potatoes, and as we go on declining the forest cover, wood and so on, it's easier to cook potatoes than to boil maize the whole day.
We cannot continue importing starch while we can actually produce starch, from the potato crop. We can indeed, export a mashed potato
by actually drying it up, crushing it into powder, and we can export it to the whole globe.
For the government, potato should be seen as a viable source of starch instead of the over-reliance on maize. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Nyandarua County.
Some would say they've discovered what to do with their potatoes. Now moving to the corporate scene, and listed oil company Kenol Kobil has posted a profit of 2.4 billion shillings for the full year to December 2017. The oil marketer says it would have made a 3.4 billion shilling net profit, but then one of costs that it incurred into these proceeds, resulting in the flat profit. These one-off costs included an impairment of 570.2 million shillings that Kenol Kobil has been writing off as losses accrued from the defunct Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited. This is part of the 1.8 billion shilling debt owed to KPRL that the company has been writing off as losses for the last 3 years. In a bid to clean up its books, shareholders are set to receive a 30 cents per share in dividend payout, 33% more than the dividends paid in 2016. The planting season is here, and while the government says farmers have already received their input, many farmers in Baringo County complain that they are yet to receive fertilizer despite having already paid for it. The farmers say they have been camping at the National Cereals and Produce Board depot in Kabarnet for the last few days waiting for the fertilizer, and that the slow service from NCPB has forced them to spend nights in the queues. They say any efforts to get NCPB management to address their plight have been unsuccessful, yet they have fulfilled all necessary requirements to qualify them for the subsidy program. They are now calling on the national government to take charge of the matter so that they are not late in planting.
Kuanzia Friday up to now, tuko hapa kuhangaika tu. Wengine wametoka mbali, hata hatujua wanaishi wapi hapa. Watu wamelala huko nje, wametafuta marafiki zao, wamelala. Wako na shida, hata mama mwingine juzi ameanguka hapa kwa njaa. Na hakuna mtu anatumikiwa. Wenye wanatumiwa hatuoni hapa. Anasema TMCS wanaleta watu wao na hatuoni hapa. Anasema kompyuta ati anaang huko ndani, na kumbe sisi wenyewe tunaang. Sio kompyuta inaang.
We have been living in people's houses since on Friday, Saturday, Monday and today. But these people have not opened their offices up to now. Their system is very slow. I don't know which business they are doing, because we are supposed to pay our money through the bank so that we offer the balances here. I know it's a business that they need our commissions out of here. Secondly, I ask our leaders that they should open another branch, Baringo North, that is Kabartonjo headquarters.
They will be talking about planting, but it's time for me to get uprooted from the studio. My name is Dan. Good night.
Welcome back. Today marks a year since the Ilchamus sought refuge at Eldume in Baringo County following clashes that saw more than 10 people die. With the effect of a police operation and efforts to build cohesiveness among the pastoralist communities in Baringo County, there is still a sense of mistrust lurking among them. Bridget Ngana was at Eldume and files this report.
It is well into the afternoon when we make our way into Eldume camp. We are welcomed by Benjamin Lecher, the chief who fled with his constituents when the fighting broke. He says efforts to build the bridges brought down by conflict are well on course.
Kwa hivyo kwa sasa mambo imetulia kwa upande zote, usalama sio mbaya vile vile, lakini tunaona kuna matumaini ya watu kurudi.
About 147 households live here. For Lore Kima, she is still edgy about the truce. It makes her hesitant to return to Mukutani.
Napenda kwenda kweli Mukutani. Hakuna shida. Lakini sasa nikienda itakuwa tu shida kwa sababu anaweza sema za amani. Ashinde mwaka moja kama kila siku. Ashinde mwaka moja ndio hiyo tena pita.
Living in this crowded area has been stressful, especially over the past year.
Kama ulikuwa area yako ungelala njaa. Hata unajua utauza suguma, utafanya nini, unauza ama unakimbilia fulani. Lakini saa hii hakuna mwenye utakimbilia sababu tuko wote sawa.
For the county and national governments, priority lies in ensuring all displaced persons return to their normal lives.
Na hata serikali waliweza kuelekeza jambo hilo kwa IBC. Ili IBC wenyewe waweze kujitokeza na kuja kubaini mipaka ni gani. Ili solution jambo hilo lipate solution.
Because without peace, all of us are disadvantaged. Both the attacker and the attacked person are disadvantaged. And that reality has gone into a number of our minds.
The prevalence of arms amongst the pastoralist communities remains a threat to the calm currently in Baringo.
The gun itself is a motivating aspect. That is where I want the national government to address. They should address the issue of the gun. Because this gun sometimes can disadvantage the issue of coexistence.
In times of conflict, it is the women and children that are usually worst hit, and this camp here in Eldume is a testament of such. Despite persistent statements from the government that they are securing the greater Baringo County, there is a sense of mistrust for the communities that are usually caught up in the conflict. They do hope that this time round, when they'll go back to their homes, it will be as peaceful as they have always known it to be. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Baringo County.
It's 10 o'clock. Let's shift focus and bring you the sports news. Watson Karuma has the very latest in just a moment. Stay with us.
Sports, and I'm Watson Karuma. FC Leopards came from a goal down to record a second successive comeback win, this time edging out 10-man Wazito FC 3-2 at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. A brace from midfielder Wyvon Isuza in both halves and a third one by Ezekiel Odera was enough for caretaker coach Dennis Kitambi to get his third win in a row following Robert Matano's suspension. Piston Mutamba had opened scoring before sealing his brace for Wazito, who also had Kennedy Ayako sent off, while Leopards had the dubious distinction of missing 2 penalties. Ingwe moved up to second in the table with 13 points, just 3 behind leaders Gor Mahia, while Wazito slipped to 14th following their third loss in 6 games.
Definitely, we have a big problem there. We have an absolute big problem there. And I mean, the game here on Saturday is just silly mistakes. Obviously, when you try to play out from the back, you expect those mistakes. But to commit 3 mistakes, that's just suicidal.
I think it was a very balanced game. We controlled the game. We controlled them. They never threatened us from open play. The referee gave them very cheap decisions. I think, to me, that one spoiled otherwise a very good spectacle of a game.
The National Sevens rugby team will be aiming for a medal at the upcoming Commonwealth Games. This follows a stellar run in the World Rugby Series, most recently at the Vancouver Sevens. The team arrived back home to a muted reception that was remarkably different from the one given when they won the Cup title in Singapore in 2016.
The National Sevens rugby team enjoyed a good tour of North America, placing 7th in the Las Vegas leg and 2nd in Vancouver to amass a total of 29 points. With the team in top form, the focus now turns to the Commonwealth Games, where in the last edition, Kenya only managed a quarter-final berth. At Gold Coast, Kenya is in Pool C with New Zealand, Canada and Zambia.
Once we consistently hit the performance targets, then we stand a good chance to win a medal in the Commonwealth Games, and it is within our season's goal to get a medal in the Commonwealth Games.
Before playing at the Gold Coast, Shujaa will be hoping to avoid the Singapore curse of dipping after a high when they play in Hong Kong Sevens in early April. Kenya is in Pool B with Australia, Spain and Canada.
Nowadays with 7 there is no easy pool, so we'll go and approach every game as a hard one. Stick to our guns, play our games and hopefully top the pool and make it to the quarters, get the 10 points, then build up from there.
Because I believe we have enough firepower in Kenya and we have enough talent to be able to wrestle with the big boys.
The team also spoke regarding the final in Vancouver, where Kenya matched Fiji 12-all at half-time before soaking in 3 tries after the break to lose 31-12.
It was a good match. Once you reach the final, it's all about the mental aspect, not because the bodies are tired. I think they were mentally stronger than us and they got the win, so that's kudos to them.
We want to thank all the Kenyans who stayed up at night to watch the games and to support the team.
The team, who had a 16-hour commute, also endured a 2-hour delay at their arrivals after some bags were lost. This coupled with a muted reception involving a couple of Kenya Rugby Union officials, Sports Ministry cadre and the traditional dancers did not do enough to lift the mood at the cold and rainy JKIA. Warote Kiru, NTV.
Now, that's one team back home. There's one team that also left the country, and that is the national cross-country team that has arrived in Algeria with a mission to defend the title at the 5th Africa Cross-Country Championships in Clef on Saturday. Ahead of the team's departure, NOC President Paul Tergat reminded the athletes of the importance of wearing the national colors. Sean Katovilis reports.
The team closed their Embu camp ahead of departure to Algeria for the Africa Cross Country Championship set for Saturday. The team, which is under coach John Kemeto, includes among others Stacey Ndiwa, Sandra Chebet and Selfin Chepsol in the senior women's race, as well as Alfred Balkach in the senior men's team. The young athletes received words of encouragement from a retired athlete, now the National Olympic Committee President Paul Tergat. The former world marathon record holder won a record 5 straight IAAF World Cross Country titles between 1995 and 1999.
It is a privilege for any sportsman to don or to put on these national colors that you are putting in today. It is an honor for everyone that has worked so hard and earned this position to represent this country.
Athletics Kenya President Major Jackson Tuwei reminded athletes that there are no shortcuts to success, adding that Kenyan athletes must keep the sport clean.
Competition is competition. There is no small competition and there is no big competition. Every competition is big and it is tough. And therefore, know that you are going for a tough assignment, but you are equal to the task.
And Kenya won 8 gold medals, taking all the individual and team golds in Yaoundé, Cameroon 2 years ago. So all the preparations and training are over. It's now up to the team to defend its team and individual titles. Sean Carter-Villas, NTV at the Western Hotel.
Now, Kenya Prisons and Kenya Pipeline were both knocked out of the Africa Club Volleyball Championship with identical 3-1 scores in the 2 semi-finals in Cairo, Egypt, played on Tuesday. The national champions, Kenya Pipeline, crashed out 25-22, 16-25, 19-25, and 8-5 to Al Ahly of Egypt, with Noel Nassimiu the top scorer for the Pipeline side with 14 points. In the first semi-final, Prisons lost 15-25, 25-22, 23-25, 21-25 to Carthage of Tunisia in what was a very tight contest. Al Ahly will now face Carthage in the final on Thursday, while Pipeline meet Prisons in an all-Kenyan clash for 3rd place. Now, believe it or not, Nation Media Group has a football club, and that club will battle it out with Impact Stars, JH Piego Corporation, PS Kenya, Diageo, General Electric in Pool A of the Road to Anfield tournament to be held on Saturday at the St. Mary's grounds. The winner of the 5-a-side Standard Chartered Trophy Kenya tournament involving 48 teams will gain direct qualification to the Standard Chartered Trophy finals to be played at Anfield, the home of Liverpool FC, on the 17th of May. In addition, the winning team will attend an EPL match at Anfield and benefit from a professional training session with Liverpool FC legends and coaches. Liverpool legend Bruce Grobbelaar will grace the finals at St. Mary's on Saturday.
Let's go Kenya Limited. Just with Group E and Group. The guy is worried, but they are big. But please, smile.
Well, there's more UEFA Champions League action tonight. We had Bayern Munich beat Besiktas 2-1 and advance to the quarterfinals on an 8-1 aggregate score. On Tuesday night, Manchester United were knocked out of the Champions League at the last 16 stage after an awful performance that ended in a 2-1 home defeat by Sevilla, Wissam Ben Yedder scoring a brace. Meanwhile, Edin Dzeko's strike ensured AS Roma reached the quarters for the first time since 2008 with victory over Shakhtar Donetsk.
United stepped out for Manchester United crashed out of the Champions League as Sevilla ran out.